Good morning.
Morning.
I am so excited to share with you today a very special someone from Tampa, Florida. Recently shared stage at Harvard Club of Boston with Caitlyn Jenner and George Ross. He is an expert on transforming the marriage you have into the marriage you want. Please help me welcome to the stage Stan Padgett.
How are you doing today?
Great.
How are you feeling?
Good. Great.
I'm really grateful and honored to be able to be here with you today, right here, right now. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have total love, joy, passion, and connection with your spouse?
Yes.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like, what it would feel like to feel as much love as you felt the day you got married?
Yes.
Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to want to spend every minute with your spouse?
Yes.
By show of hands, how many of you would like to have a proven method to increase the connection between yourself and your spouse?
Yes.
By show of hands, how many of you would like to have a simple tool to allow you to measure the quality of your marriage?
Yes.
By show of hands, how many of you would like to have the blueprint for a lasting, loving marriage?
Yes.
All right. In a moment, you're about to discover how to create a marriage that's full of love, passion, connection, joy, daily. In a moment, you're about to discover how to prioritize your marriage in your busy life. In a moment, you're about to discover the secret to communicating correctly, to listening correctly. Would it be okay if I share a personal story with you?
Yes.
Great. I was born in Columbia, South Carolina. I was the son of a government employee, so we moved every 6 months for about first 4 or 5 years of my life. My dad was a civil engineer. So I lived in Kentucky, North Carolina, the state of Washington, and probably some other places I don't remember. And it was just me, my mom, my dad, and finally my little brother. And I always knew my parents loved me. But I also knew by the time I was 6 years old that the day my little brother graduated from high school, my dad was gone. And we moved to Bowling Green, Kentucky when I was in the 3rd grade, and I went there through the 11th grade. And what my dad told his older sister about me, he described me this way. Stan's interested in 2 things, chicks and baseball. Okay? Well, before my senior year of high school, we moved to Montgomery, Alabama, and I met the only chick that would ever matter again. See, we were high school sweethearts. We met a few days after she turned 16. We got engaged 3 months later. Now, I was only 17. I wasn't robbing the cradle. I was still in it. Okay? We have gone through a lot, but we just celebrated 42 years of marriage. Now, January 21st of 2003 was one of the best and worst days of my life. See, that's the day I got the phone call telling me my first grandchild had been born. By then, I'd graduated from Duke Law School. I spent 21 years as a trial lawyer, and I was in Michigan working on a case. My wife called and she says, "We have our first grandson, and they named him after you." I was joyful about his birth, and I was completely humbled by his name, because my daughter had never said a word about naming her son after me. That was great. I felt so completely alive, so energized, until about 15 minutes later, and the second phone call came. There's something wrong with the baby. They've taken him to ICU. About 4 hours later, the third call came. They think Brandon has a serious heart problem. They're transporting him to Rainbow Children's Hospital in Salt Lake City. I caught the next plane to Salt Lake City. Brandon had open heart surgery when he was 6 days old. Again when he was 4 months old. And he died in my daughter's arms when he was 8 months old. We brought him home to Florida, and I helped carry my grandson to his grave. I will never forget the moment when I walked into the funeral home. I saw this little tiny silver casket. And I remember how light it felt when we picked it up. And we walked down to where we were going to bury him. I could smell the flowers. I could hear people crying. And I felt this emptiness because my little girl was hurting. And I couldn't fix it. See, my wife and I have had every kind of struggle you can have in marriage. We got married when we were children. We were 17 and 18. We had our first child when I was in college. Second child while I was in law school. Third child while I was working ridiculous hours as a young lawyer. While I started a law firm by myself. While we buried a grandson. While we both served in church positions, it took a tremendous amount of time. We had every reason for our marriage to fail, but it didn't. You see, during college, I worked midnight to 8 in a garbage bag factory. I worked 9 to noon at my second job. I went to college 1 to 5, and I'd go home and spend time with my wife and my new baby, and I'd go to bed at 7, get up at 11, and do it again. Now, my wife and I invested in my education, and she invested in me. And what we learned were there were some principles, there were some practices that were common to lasting, loving relationships. The things that allowed us to not just survive, but to thrive. Because my favorite thing to do right now is be with her. I don't need to go to dinner with a group. I don't need to be in a party. I don't need to go to a concert. I would just want to be with her. You see, I still remember what she was wearing the first time I saw her because she knocked my socks off. And she still does. There's a problem. Couples don't have enough love and joy and passion, connection in their marriage. They don't have enough time together. They don't have enough fulfillment or satisfaction from their marriage. But I have the solution. I created the diamond relationship formula because diamonds are forever and marriages should be too. The diamond relationship formula will help learn to have the joy, the passion, the connection that you've always wanted to have with your spouse and have it grow every day. It'll help you learn to communicate effectively and to listen correctly. And it'll help you make your spouse feel treasured. Now, why now? Marriage, because all of the joy and love and satisfaction in life comes from deep, loving relationships. And why do we deal with it now? Because it's either growing or dying every day. There are simple things you can do on a daily basis to not just make your marriage grow, but to make it thrive. So the Diamond Relationships Formula is a 5-module audio, video, and workbook-based system to help you take the marriage you have and make it into the marriage you want. That make sense? Yes. Okay. And it's a pretty simple acronym. GLPLC. First, give your full attention. Anybody have one of these? Yes. Have you ever been with your spouse and this thing rings, buzzes, beeps, or vibrates? Yes. And you look down at it? Do you understand the message you just communicated to your spouse was that whatever was happening on this was more important to you than they were. And do you understand that's the message? I know that wasn't your intention. That was just the message. And that's the same message that you're communicating to your children when you do that. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Now, the second one is listen correctly. Men, do you like to fix things? Like to solve problems? That's who we are, right? Okay? Ever have the experience of your wife comes to you and she wants to tell you about a challenge or problem she had that day, you tell her how to solve it, and she's not happy? Got it. Ladies, ever had the experience where you want to tell your husband or your boyfriend something, and you just want him to hear you, and he wants to fix you? Doesn't feel very good, does it? Are you following me? Yes. Okay. Now, P is prioritize your marriage. How many of you have busy lives? You have calendars booked out for days, weeks, or months. And your calendar looks like a big blob. All these things are in there. Your meetings, your travel, your seminars, your calls, your conference calls. And you try to find these little tiny cracks and crevices to stick your marriage into. Doesn't work. Because the marriage is where you're going to get all the joy. And you already know that. When you're having a great day at work, everything's flowing, and you are just crushing it. What does it feel like when you go home that night and argue with your spouse? All those good feelings disappear? Okay. But think about it in the other way. If everything's good at home, can you fix every problem at work? Absolutely. All right. L, learn and grow together. How many of you know couples who have never had any traumatic event, no infidelity, they've just grown apart? Everybody know that? There are simple daily practices that you can do to grow together, but that has to be intentional. You have to have a plan to do it. You have to have something different. This makes sense? Okay. The last one is this. It's celebrate what it feels like. Do you think that if you and your spouse create a moment of connection, a moment of intimacy, and you celebrate it together, that it's going to make it deeper and richer and more meaningful? That makes sense? Okay. Would it be okay if I share with you how I can help you?
Yes.
Okay. The Diamond Relationship Formula takes each of these things, puts them into context so that you can use them. Learning how to give your full attention, that has to be purposeful, has to be taught. The value of that portion of the system alone is $19.97. Learning how to listen correctly means more than simply your ears. We already know that only 7% of your communication's there. It's about your face, your gestures, your posture, your tone. Learning how to do that and unlearning the patterns that you have that are broken, that's worth $24.97. Prioritizing your marriage, giving you tools and techniques and something easy to use that'll let your marriage come first in reality so that that's what your spouse feels, that's worth $19.97. A plan to learn and grow together that you can implement over the next 10, 20, 30, or in our case 40 years, that's worth $24.97. And a celebration, a pattern of how to make that work, how to make that grow, to give you that richness, that's worth $19.97. So the total value of the Diamond Relationships Formula is $10,985. Dave invited me here and he asked me if I would do something special for you. So today, while I'm in the room, the Diamond Relationship System is not $10,900. It's not $5,000. It's not $2,500. It is one simple, easy investment of $19.97. Get up now and go to the Get Started table in the back of the room. Now, you have no risk. because there is a 14-day, 100% money-back guarantee. If you try the program for 14 days and you're not getting the results you think you should be getting, send it back. We'll even pay for the shipping. You have nothing to lose and a diamond marriage to gain. Now, I'm going to leave you with two more bonuses. The first bonus are 2 tickets to a one-day live event that I'm doing in Tampa next month, valued at $24.97 each. And the second bonus, bonus number 2, is 6 group coaching calls valued at $5,000. The total value of the Diamond Relationship Formula is over $20,000. And today, if you invest in your marriage today, it's one easy payment of $1997. Follow me to the Get Started table and let's go to work.